It's kind of like gangs. You mentioned, and basically, um, you know, they don't start out like that. They are brainwashed. They see all this behavior, bad language being used by the officers to intimidate people, to scare people. So they start thinking that that behavior is normal. They turn into bullies. It's all part of this whole socialization thing here, which, you know, it's a proven fact. It's not something that, oh, it just happens overnight. It takes a while. It's a process. And as you're dealing with all these issues and all these horrible things that are going on, many times, like in my case, you get victimized, you get assaulted, you get the shit beat out of you, and the department doesn't tell you how to deal with this anger, how to treat it. Instead, you're left to deal with it on your own, just like most people are, of course, too. You know, a lot of these gangbangers, except you're given this incredible amount of power as a law enforcement officer. And of course, we know that that power is oftentimes many times abused.
Yeah, it's abused a lot, especially here in LA. Um, yeah, that's just ridiculous. How come that you said they put the bait truck with the sneakers? I heard about that, but they do that with cars. They put stereos. They'll put a truck full of stuff people need, and then people go and try to get stuff that they want or need because they don't have money to get it, and then they get arrested. But I don't see them going and
Right.
giving insider tips in Beverly Hills to the rich people and setting them up. I don't see them going with like stock and bond certificates or whatever to get the whatever rich people want. They never go and do it that way. It's always fucking with the poor people.
Right. And so, you know, I participated in those type of stings. I remember when I worked in narcotics team in the Rampart Westlake area. We would set it up there in the poor communities. We would set up shop as the drug dealers, the that were selling fake crack cocaine. People would come up, they drive down the street, then they get pulled over, and they'd be arrested for solicitation. And so you see this happening many shapes and forms where, again, you know, you're not treating the problem, you're just making it bigger, you're making it worse, you're you know, demonizing a group of people. And so, you know, at the time when I was there, I didn't see it. I saw myself as like they try to portray us hero. You're a hero and you're doing a good thing, getting all these people off the streets. But, you know, the way that they referred to them as scum, as lowlifes, as dirtbags, as animals, things like that. I mean, these are the citizens. These are human beings. And is it any wonder that we have the world's highest population incarcerated just for all these chicken shit laws and rules where, you know, most of the time they're not directed, you know, with justice. They're directed with, you know, fixating on the minorities, fixating on the poor, fixating on the homeless.
Yeah, yeah. What sense did that make? Like, how did they even justify that shit, Alex? Like, you're gonna set up a sting and sell drugs or fake drugs, whatever, and arrest all the people using drugs. That doesn't solve the drug problem because there's still people out there selling drugs, and that's where this
Right,
shit goes. So if they're not gonna legalize the
right.
drugs, then there's gonna be crimes committed over the drugs. Why aren't they going after people selling more than the just? I mean, the average crackhead or weedhead, they ain't causing no trouble. They just doing what they got to do to keep their drugs, right?
Right. Well, that's exactly it. What happens most of the time, there are people that are just trying to make a little bit of extra money, trying to hustle. A lot of the times, you have the police working in cahoots with these people. You know, that's why I don't believe it anymore. My own supervisor, I don't know if I shared this with you. His name was Janelli, Richard Janelli. Google him, Ginelli. He was a supervisor of the South Bureau of Narcotics, South Central by Drug Task Force, of which I was his undercover officers. Here's a guy who was like a 32, 34-year police detective, white guy who was a heroin addict, arrested for stealing the heroin from the evidence lockers. All this took place right around the time of the Rampart scandal. So what that says, with all that madness, it's systemic. It's not just an isolated incident, how the police like to try to paint it, or it's a couple of rotten apples. That's what they like to say, a couple of rotten apples. That is not the case here. The problem is systemic. You have a bunch of people here, criminals themselves, I venture to say, because they are complicit in fabricating, making up things, lying to send people to prison. They ruin lives, okay? And it's not even necessarily their fault, because the system changes them. And unless you get out of the system, many times it requires for you to get arrested, for you to wake up like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like my supervisor. How many people, while he was a damn drug addict for umpteen years, did he send to prison for the same shit he did? Okay? Now, he only got busted for possession. He didn't get busted for sales. Okay? He didn't get busted for sales, but I'm sure he had at least probably, a lot of, heroin. He was the head guy in charge. He could get whatever the fuck he wanted to. And for the longest, until, they began to see his behavior, until they began to see the dope missing, that was when they caught him.
That's fucking sick and ridiculous. Hey, everybody, if y'all can hear me, I think what happened was the show, the bandwidth got so low, the show shut down, and then now we're on a second show or something, so I don't know if people got lost or whatever happened. I just saw it pop up on the YouTube. So what I'll do is, when I can, I'll try to chop out all the bullshit and put this show together and re-upload it in the future. Just the valid parts without all the tech problems. I usually just keep them live, but I think that's like important to do, maybe, because Alex is a great co-host. Today we're gonna get stuff we don't get from the other co-hosts, and because he's been there and he has a different background, and I think it's important. So I'll get it all together. Yo, Scotty, I think I just explained it, but yeah, what happened was the bandwidth got so low it shut the show down, and then it started us back up. So I hope you guys are still in here and can still hear us. Let me know if that's the case. But either way, we'll finish this and then we'll upload it. I'll put it together and re-upload it the way it sounds best without all the technical problems. So yeah, Alice, what someone was asking me earlier, what, because I'd ask people like questions and stuff to ask for today's show, or anything, topics they want to brought up, and what would be the solution to this? Like, what would be the solution to the problem besides abolishing police, which is my solution? What would be the solution? What would be the solution in your opinion to fix this problem?
Well, you know what, man? Here's the problem, and really the only solution is your solution to abolish the police. I absolutely agree with you now, with that, and it sounds crazy.
You didn't agree with me last show, though.
I agree with you now only because when you start thinking about things, people come out with these really outrageous anarchist ideas, right? To fuck the police. And I'm always thinking sometimes you need some kind of order. But here's the problem with the current law enforcement: there's a sub racism there. You have people affiliated with the KKK, Nazis, fascists, that are police officers. You know this. You've squared off with them. They have told you exactly who they are. They might not have the swastika, they might not have the robe, but they are of the mentality. And I'm seeing this mentality happening day in, day out. As Trump continues to spout his really ridiculous rhetoric. And so to get back to answering, is we need to really establish a core curriculum that deals with the code of silence, that deals with making sure that these officers don't engage in a culture of where, they're hiding things for the partners. They need to be able to have whistleblower protection to be able to anonymously report their other partners who are stealing, who are framing, who are planning drugs. Ultimately, it comes down to leadership, okay? Because if you have a shady leader like they did out here in Los Angeles with Lee Baca. Now, Lee Baca was the former head of the largest jail system in the United States of America. He made himself the only five-star, you know, sheriff in the nation, okay? Because usually they typically have 4 little stars when they're the chief. This fuck had 5 stars, all right? Thinking that he was the supreme allied commander, General fucking Patton, you know, and doing what he was doing until he decided to fuck with the FBI, who were investigating the sheriff's department for their complicit behavior in having gladiator fights, for beating people in the jails, for getting tattoos, for breaking bones, for killing. The assistant sheriff, Paul Tanaka, had a tattoo on his right ankle that he was called out on by a former commander named Bob Olmsted, who said, yeah, he has a tattoo on his right ankle for killing, you know, an 18-year-old and shooting him 6 or 7 times in the back, something really outrageous. And so it almost has to be dismantled, you know, because, you know, you cannot get through some of these people like you just can't get through to a child molester, right? Or one of these priests that you know, doesn't like women, doesn't like maybe a guy, a man, but instead decides to go after a child. These are mentalities, addictions, behaviors, whatever the hell you want to call them, that aren't easily removed. And I know when I was in that terrible state of mind out there, because, you know, I had become very abusive, not only to the public, but to my wife. And we've all heard, you know, how police officers can become, you know, very bad abusers, have high rates of domestic violence. I didn't know why I'd become an asshole, to be quite honest with you. I just wanted to beat people. I wanted to hurt people. And so the big secret was that people didn't talk about was PTSD. Okay, we are just learning about PTSD. I didn't know about PTSD until I left the department. And then when I left the department, that's when the light bulb went off. I was like, what? You mean there's a reason for me acting crazy? There's a reason for me beating people? There's a reason for me being abusive? There's a reason for all this madness? And so for me, when that happened, you know, like a lot of these holy roller Christians, you know, you slap you on the head, you do a couple backflips, and you're rolling around on the ground. That's what happened to me. You know, using that as a metaphor, of course, but it was a big thing because it changed my life, knowing that there was a reason for my behavior. Okay, because when I came on the job, I wasn't like that. I'd never seen my dad raise his hand at my mom. I was never an abuser. I never talked bad to women. I wasn't disrespectful. But, you know, as soon as that incident happened where I got involved, half a dozen gangbangers trying to stop a robbery where a woman was being attacked, I wasn't even dressed in my police uniform. I just simply saw this woman being attacked, doing what I thought anybody should do to help out their fellow man or woman. And I got involved. Long story short, I almost got killed, got my ass kicked, got ran over. They stole my badge, they stole my gun. All kinds of things happened. Within months, I was separated from my high school sweetheart that I had been with through high school, through the band practice, and the military. I was in the Air Force, and my 2 years on the department. So after 5 years of being with this woman, you know, now I had lost it, essentially.
Yeah, you know, I never asked you this. Did the we talked about military and the police, but I never got specific. Did the Air Force have any influence on when you became a cop? Like, did it? I mean, the Air Force, you know, they don't do as much like on the ground harassing people like some of the other branches of military do. But did it make you look at people any different, or is it pretty much insignificant?
Well, you know, the Air Force surpasses the other branches of the military with its brute force, because remember, we're the ones that have the nukes, we're the ones that have the bombers, the B-2 bombers, these bombers that just can, you know, pipe out a fucking mountain. Okay, so I mean that we sit behind these drones that direct these, or we have pilots that launch from a mile away or whatever. Yeah, but I was also in Central America. My work in military in the Air Force involved going down to the border of Nicaragua, Honduras, where these poor people were simply trying to get away from their oppressors, the rich oppressors, that were being controlled by the United States, large corporations like Chiquita Banana. Now, essentially what happened with these workers, and I'm just throwing out Chiquita Banana, that would be out there on the banana plantations, 15, 20, 30 cents a day, want a little bit more money than that, right? And of course, the landowners were like, fuck these guys, these are Indians. Essentially it was, repeating history again, the same slave trade, but using Indians, indigenous people, and paying them these really low wages to get them to work. And so while I was there, I saw things. I saw tortures. I saw people being caught and being, killed essentially. And that did play a little bit of influence in me, and it started a desensitization process in me not looking at people so much as human beings, but rather as bad people without even knowing what they were about. It's you go back to Nazi Germany. How did they look at the Jew back then? And I know it's really controversial when you bring up the Jews and stuff like that, but I looking at them, and again using the analogy here forward into time, the Zapatistas, the FMLN, the Farabundo Marti Liberación Nacional, the Sandinistas, these people who were like, fuck these guys, we want to be able to eat, we want to have our own land, we don't want to be controlled. I mean, that was their reason for fighting, okay? But the American white supremacists decided, no, we're going to dominate. That's what we came here for. That's why they took the southwestern part of the United States. That's why they committed genocide against the American Indian. And literally, we've never heard, about the millions upon millions of Indians, Mexicans, Aztecs, that were killed throughout, the centuries. We're talking 500, 600 years, that they came and they took over. And now we have this bullshit history of how they have wanted to paint things.
Yeah, I had my super mute on. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I just think, like, I know the Air Force doesn't have to go and be on the ground patrolling people and looking at everyone as insurgents. They just drop bombs on faceless masses. That's probably not any better. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like we talked about it before, how the military influences everything, and I think I think that's definitely the case in some situations.
Oh yeah, well, the military is responsible for all of the crap involving the militarization of the police. Okay,
oh yeah, they're giving them all their extra supplies.
Even going to go get my damn vape cartridges, of flour, you got a security guard out there and he has a flak vest, he has a taser, he has a gun, he's dressed in black. I'm like, is this a cop? Or is this guy in the military? I mean, that influence has been really strongly perpetuated by the military, because we're not here in the United States in military type conditions. We hope that we can walk down the street and someone's not going to look at us, oh, that's an insurgent. But we now know that can happen. We've had little kids killed playing, cops and robbers, and they get killed. And of course, it's never a white kid, it's a black kid, because you're not going to see that happening in Beverly Hills or other affluent communities. So this mentality is really what needs to be changed. It's really what needs to be addressed. It's really what needs to be talked about. Because if we don't talk about this, we are only set for self-destruction. As it is right now, we are, in condition red, when it comes to this country blowing up.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we might be close. I don't know if we're quite there yet. But yeah, back to the Zapatistas and all that stuff you were talking about. I got. You're on Twitter, right, Alex?
Yes.
What is it? Alex M. Salazar at Alex M. Salazar.
It's something like that. Alex M. Salazar. I'm on Twitter. You'll see a picture of me there. And just, with the Air Force, my background, what I've been talking about here. If anybody wants to friend me or wants to make a comment, yell at call me dirty pig, whatever. I am there for whatever abuse comes my way. I know I kind of vent to you sometimes, Tim, at my frustration, in trying to get a lot of these, ex-cops and people who, even family members of mine who have been brainwashed beyond belief. And I know the listener, too, probably has people that are like that, might even be their parents, their cousins, their own brother. But, in my opinion, this is all what was happening, just prior to the war blowing up in 1861, brother against brother. Remember, father against son, cousins against cousins. It's a very ugly feeling that here, in the year 2018, we're going back into time instead of forward into time, and in us being able to look at all people as equal human beings. But we know that this country wasn't founded on. When they start talking about that craziness, all men are created equal, we know that that was not the truth. When we celebrate the 4th of July, we know that that was not a 4th of July for us, as Frederick Douglass said. The Frederick Douglass speech on the 4th of July, damning, because this country was not for the colored man. This country was not for the Indian man. It was not for anybody unless you were white. And I realized too, because, it sounds pretty ignorant. I got attacked from saying, oh yeah, all white people. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying, because if it wasn't for progressive whites, blacks would have never been freed. Okay, and I'm not saying that they were perfect back then, because nobody's perfect. Lincoln, strung up a lot of American Indians who died fighting for their land. He didn't want to do that. Okay,
he didn't want to end slavery either. Lincoln was a terrible person.
Right. Well, but still, they did it. They did it. They overcame it, and we continued on. Lynchings continued. Slavery still continued. And although it was on paper that it had ended, all these bad things were still going on. Like, they're still going on to this very day.
Yeah, we have a prison strike going on.
Right.
And that's where slavery went. Slavery left the plantations. It went to the prisons, or modern day plantations now. People are working for, there's stuff, fire camps have been going on forever, where people are working for pennies, risking their lives, fighting fires. And I was reading something on Twitter where someone said, oh, I fought fires in prison. Now I'm free. I did my time. Can I get a job as a firefighter? Like, hell no. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was just like a meme kind of thing. It wasn't somebody really said that. Maybe they did. I don't know.
I heard they get it paid only like 30 cents an hour or something like that. Is that true?
Yeah,
that's what they're getting paid.
If that, yeah, it's.
Well, I'm like, what the fuck? That's a slap in the face. It's ignorant.
Well, they also manufacture things for corporations and schools and government things that for profit. It is straight up slavery. Just moved to the prison system. That's why there's abolitionists out here. That's why there's prison strikes going on. Y'all need to check the hashtag prison strike if you don't know what's going on. But trip on. There's a Twitter account I really love. It's The Vengeant, at The Vengeant, TheVengeant. But they put up something yesterday. It says, from a comrade, we need to be critical of the vote them out rhetoric. Being presented as, I'm sorry, let me read it right. We need to be critical of the vote them out rhetoric being presented as the only solution to the rise of fascism. Hang on, I got a big glare in my phone. I'm trying to read it on a small phone. Let me turn it sideways here. If this next election fails to curtail fascism, and it will fail, it could be the U.S.'s last election. Fascists control all three branches of the U.S. government. There are no checks and balances anymore. The fascists in power can do anything they want, and not one of you can vote. And no one you can vote for will save you. You'll have to do more than vote to save your friends, neighbors from fascism. You'll have to do more than signing petitions. You'll have to do more than walking in permitted police-protected marches. Get used to the idea that you will be breaking the law to save people. March when it isn't permitted. Create barricades to prevent ICE agents from going to work. Lie to officials. Destroy records. Get used to the idea that you may have to strike. Get used to the idea that you may get arrested. Take breaks when you need to and take care of one another. Check on the vulnerable members of your community. We will get through this together, but only if we stand up for ourselves together. Now, I love that shit. That's the shit I've been preaching forever, as poorly as I read it just now. Um, like, I think that's the thing. Like, people still trying to follow the law. They out here like police-led marches. We refuse fascism, but we're led by a bunch of fascists, pigs on motorcycles, telling us where we can and can't go according to our permit. I mean, that doesn't seem like you're really refusing anything. It seems like you're going right along with it. Or don't rip down the police tape. I'll get yelled at by other protesters. Don't go past the barricade. Don't do this. Don't talk badly to cops. It's crazy, man. How do we break that
Well,
into people? Like the total wanting to obey the laws that are totally against us, against our own humanity and freedom.
well, Tim, you keep on hitting these great points, my friend. And I was talking to you about that too, just prior to us coming in and doing this radio show. Is me, I'm like in horror looking at, like I said, people that I love, people that I'm close to, and they disregard what this man has said about humanity, calling us animals, okay, locking up babies. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. I'm not going to talk about his personal sex life because I certainly don't have any room to talk either, okay? But here, when it affects the people, when it affects the children, and just causes more death and misery, then we are just really fucked up, to be supporting this type of behavior. But it shows that all this is becoming normalized. That's the problem. That there is a mentality which at some point, as it gets more powerful and powerful and powerful, as history has shown before in the past, that's where it leads to targeted killings. Okay, you get these people, these individuals like the one that took out King. Okay, some fucking nut because okay, I'm gonna do everybody a favor. I'm gonna shut this nigga up. Okay, that's what they did. They did it to the Kennedy brothers. They did it to them. They did it to Malcolm X. All these little games that are going on, and in the background is the FBI, the CIA, and things like that. Here today, though,
They're doing it to activists in Ferguson. They found people shot in, well, I think it's 3 or 4 now, different activists shot in car fire and left in a car that's burning. They haven't
right.
stopped doing that shit.
No, they haven't. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we don't even know, that if we truly knew how strong the demon was in the background, just laughing, we would be like, with our jaws to the ground. Because it really does go down deeper into the rabbit hole than what we know of, what I know of, things that,
there's things like Huey Newton and stuff where the police will deal with some gangbangers and let them off, or pay off some some dope fiends, or give them a bunch of dope that they got out of evidence to deal with someone for them. You know what I mean? Then they're free and
right.
clear. This shit happens all the time, and we don't always look at it as police hits. I'm sure there's so many times the police have done horrible shit, and it looks like something else, but it's really they're behind it. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind because I know of instances like that.
Absolutely. You look at the story of Ruben Salazar. Ruben Salazar was assassinated in 1971 during the Chicano moratorium. You had, for the first time ever, thousands upon thousands of Mexicans who were empowered by their liberty, by leaders and heroes that were coming out. And here was Ruben Salazar, a reporter for the Los Angeles Times, a reporter for KMEX.
You still there?
And
you
basically, yeah. Did you hear me?
You dropped out for a second. You're back.
Sorry. And so for KMEX, he was reporting. He was basically the badass of badasses for his time for talking about all this, brutality that was happening. So here he is on August 29th. We're coming up on the anniversary of the Chicano moratorium. he was just basically just in there on a bar. It was a titty bar called the Silver Dollar. Some naked women, topless women, or whatever dancing there. But he's not bothering anyone. He's drinking a beer, having some tacos. Some guy in a red little vest said, "Hey, there's a guy in there with a gun." Well, there was no such thing. So a sheriff goes in there, and he claims that he just aims in there. And in the day's events, imagine there was over 25,000 people there of Latino, Mexican, Central American ancestry. They're proudly marching, and he is the only one. Well, there was another guy that was shot, a brown beret too, that day. But he was the reporter, the main guy there, just having his fucking tacos. He knew he was being followed. In fact, if you get the video, Man in the Middle, the story of Ruben Salazar, he said he was being followed. So anyhow, this deputy takes this projectile firing device, shoots it, takes off his fucking head. And of course, nobody bought the story, but they gave the story, oh, it was just a tragic accident, right? These are the games, the things that go on and that happen when you're really on the fringes of talking about a subject matter that most people don't want to admit. And for the white supremacists then, back in the early 70s, it was like, we're going to shut that boy up. We're going to take that boy out. And guess what? They do it, and everybody knows it. And so with me, I've been, mentioned a couple times, I've had my picture on the police station walls that, I'm conspiring with gangbangers to kill cops, the most ridiculous thing ever.
Nice.
But it's backfired on these fuckers, because they're dirty, and because I also have a higher power that is over all this madness here, I believe. And here to keep on talking, especially now that we have a platform, that we have the internet. Fuck them. Fuck these fascist pigs. Fuck these brainwashed idiots. I'm calling on all former military, all former cops, and also active duty military and active cops who want to really, cleanse themselves from this mentality. If they search into their heart and they know what's right, because we as human beings, we all have that. I don't care if you're a pedophile, if you're a hardcore criminal, killer, cop or priest, and we know that doesn't mean anything today, right? But if you're a human being, you know what is right or wrong, okay? And so we need to try to work through a lot of the shame and guilt, because it's a shame and guilt that controls us. It's a shame and guilt that causes us to attack people, to go on the war path, and to bring together activists, because we know that we're not doing what we're supposed to. And Tim, I just want to tell you, brother, I've never given you a public shout out, but you are the real deal. Okay, you are the real deal, my friend. You are one of the most humblest as fuck people I know. I have worked with a lot of people, as you know, Anthony Bourdain, CNN. I've been interviewed by Tavis Smiley, a lot of big-time reporters. I don't have to go down the name or anything. But me doing these shows with you has perhaps been the biggest kick in my life, because, I feel that I'm riding in tandem as we float through the clouds, and looking at all the bullshit that has been going on. And I know you don't look at yourself as a leader, but you are a goddamn leader, okay? And so...
this is fake news, people. Fake news.
There you go. But again, this is just my opinion, right? Because we need to have people to emulate, okay? We need to have people that we can listen to. We need to have people that we can follow, okay? We need to have people that are willing to die. We need to have people who are willing to walk the walk. And you do that, Tim, okay? And so that's not fake news, so fuck you. You're a good...
We need people to walk the walk, and we need people willing to die for the cause, but we don't need people to lead anybody. We need to lead ourselves.
Right, but in the same token, it's much more easier said than done, where not everybody can understand. We got a lot of weak-minded people out there, as you know. And so we don't have to take over anybody's mind. You have never taken over anybody's mind. You don't the people. You don't try to tell them, hey, I'm fucking David Koresh, fucking Jim Jones, swallow my fucking pill. I'm an ex-pig and I'm gravitated towards you because you speak the truth, okay? And because of that, I don't care if you're a fucking convict. I don't care if you're a fucking pedophile or you're the worst of the worst. You can change.
Whoa.
You can
I give a
that.
fuck if they're a pedophile. They don't need to change. They need to get the fuck
Oh,
on.
dude, you know what? There is so much pedophilia. Our family members are pedophiles, dude. There's so much of that shit going on. We need to help these people because they are sick. We come from this sickness. And the reason we come from this sickness is because nobody has talked about it, okay, until now,
Yeah, I
of
help them
course.
from a barrel of a Glock. Fuck a pedophile. Sorry, Alex. I can't. They ruin people's lives forever. They do.
Yes, they do.
I,
Yes, they
I
do.
can't see helping them. I don't want to help them. Fuck them. They don't need
Well,
help. I want to help. I want
well,
to help. I want to help the victims to not be anymore.
absolutely. I was speaking to a victim. Let me just share a little side story. She called me the other day because I do a lot of sex cases. I do cases for victims where I investigate their perpetrators, and I also do criminal defense because I'm well aware that there are people who make false allegations, right? And it has been the most gratifying cases for me when I have actually played a role in helping to expose that they were convicted for 23, 24 years on murder charges, that they were convicted or pointed the finger on for sex charges, that I helped get a real life innocent person from going to prison for the rest of their lives and wearing, this shame called Megan's Law around them for the rest of their life, a Mark of Cain. So I have tried
Yeah.
to keep my silence, and what I learned is that these people that molest, that are perpetrators, were children once upon a time themselves who were abused. These children who had such terrible things happen to them, that they became monsters themselves. And I am no one to say anything about those children. The only thing I can say, to these children who were hurt, who continue to be hurt, and even to the pedophile who himself or herself was tortured at an early age, is I'm sorry. I got molested, but I was 8 years old, and it was from an 8-year-old little girl who decided to mount and stick her tongue down my throat. And I didn't know what the
Yeah.
fuck that was.
I don't think
You
that's
know,
molestation. That's
it was that. It was molestation because she could start fucking playing with my little balls back then before I knew what the fuck was going on. So it is molestation. We don't see it as molestation because, that's just kids being kids. But I bet you anything, okay, that little girl was molested, and she was. All
Oh, that's
right, and
probably
that's
the
the
case.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this stuff goes around in circles here. And again, I don't see it as me talking out of my ass. I have actually dealt with these people as a police officer, arresting pedophiles, child murderers, killers. I mean, just the sickest of the sick. And then people who are just simply victims. There is no middle ground between this. You just simply have to deal with the monster of like what he said,
Well,
and what I told.
they're sickest they're sickest of the sick people that do a lot of terrible things. But I'm saying, why don't the police just focus on that instead of fucking with the average citizen all the time? Pulling motherfuckers over because there's more than four black
Right,
dudes in the car, or there's a couple Mexican cats wearing hats driving around in a truck. You know what I mean? They fucking with
right,
all these people for bullshit reasons. Why don't they stick to major fucking crimes? Me, I think that I mean that would be that would go a long way to where people say, oh, the police are doing something for the community instead of the police are hurting and harassing and beating and destroying the community. They just pick on poor people all day and night. Why don't you go solve these
right,
serial killers and the fucking? I mean, I know some crazy motherfuckers that probably shouldn't be on the streets or got to be dealt with some way. They out there doing all kinds of killing. But
mm-hmm,
and that's a sickness, and they need to deal with their people, and not deal with the average citizen so harshly. The average person on
right,
the street is a decent person. They might do whatever, but it's out of necessity or whatever. But it's not, the average person might just do no harm and do, whatever. And I don't think
right,
harming a corporation is harming anybody. So
right,
I have a different view of do no harm maybe than others.
right. But no, you're absolutely right, brother. I've never disagreed with you. That's my attraction to you as a man. Yeah, that you are right on the money when you talk about things here. Fuck the corporations who have robbed the people for the ages, okay, and who have exploited them. We've had to create these things called unions because we know that the corporations, like the police and other government entities, will not protect the people. But all really what it is, it's a mindset. If you're trained to be a Nazi, you're going to be a Nazi. We saw that happening again. We revisit Hitler and they say, well, that's not the same. Yeah, it is the same, because you start getting masses of people thinking that they're superior, like how he told that brown skin looking Indian guy from the border patrol, Bista looking as fuck, right? And says, oh, you speak English very well. Well, like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
That kills me. That kills me. That kills me, man. How I see these motherfuckers every day. These Mexican cats.
It's like when he was over there in Puerto Rico and he's throwing the what is it, the paper towels or toilet paper and shit. Here, go wipe your ass with this. You're too dirty and ugly, to come here and get it from me.
Alex,
this white. What?
I don't know if you'll be surprised that every day, because I be at that camp every day. I see these Mexican motherfucking border patrol motherfuckers.
Right.
Like so proud of fucking their own people over, man. What the fuck is up with that?
I was one of them.
One of these fuckers has a U.S. Constitution up and down his arm. Dude.
I was one of them. And it's very, very sad here what the brainwashing effect can do to these brown brothers, to these black brothers. These are the people who have historically been the Uncle Tom or the Tio Juans. These are the sellouts, the vendidos, as they call them, that come from such training. Now, they start out initially, and they have parents who have been immigrants. They have mothers, grandmothers, uncles, fathers, grandparents, cousins who are undocumented. And they start thinking they were fucking white. And Ruben Salazar, by the way, about this phenomenon where you get dark skin looking fucks like me that start thinking they're white and they would think that we're going to be accepted by the white supremacist, and it doesn't happen. I know I was never accepted by the black people as fun people. He called them fucked up niggers. That was his way of expressing his contempt, his hatred.
That was your first day on the job. You broke up. That was like your first day on the job training. He was saying that shit, right?
Yeah. It was around that time period when he began really loosening the mouth, and making me feel like I was part of this cool group of people, that I was privy to something. And yeah, you're Mexican, you got brown skin, but you know what? You're white. It was like, okay, yeah, man, I'm cool. I'm down with this shit. I'm down with this shit. I'm an LA cop.
Did you ever think about it like when you weren't working, like I'm a piece of shit or something? You know what I mean? Did it ever hit you like I'm selling out my own people, or like I'm really no better than this cat? But I don't know. I'm asking. Never.
Yeah. You know what, bro? I did, but not quite in that way. I'll tell you what happened to me. One day, I had done a drug deal where I was forced to use meth. I was out there in Euro stocking rounds of watts, and fucking gangbanger pulls out his juguete and says, I think you're the police. And I was like, well, I think you're the fucking police, right? It puts a fucking gun in my head. I'm like, oh, fuck. He says, you're going to smoke this shit here with me. And I was like, what's the fucking problem? So I did it. I got really fucking coked out, as they say. Fucking some good ass shit. Fucking blew my mind. Fucking being high as hell on crack cocaine. And I consummated the deal. I made the deal. I arrested him, and as he left me, he was like, Dad, you're crazy. I said, that's right. I'm crazier than you. And I was like crying, and I was sobbing. And then I went back that night to my nice little house in the suburbs in Glendora on the hill, where I looked at my daughter. I had been divorced from my wife now for a couple of years, and I had a son, and I was watching him play with my then girlfriend's daughter. Um, and I had my gun, and I was still dressed down. I was just watching them play, having a beer, still high. And for that second, I thought, you know what, man, I'm going to eat my gun here and in front of the kids, die here. And I think that there is a entity out there that prevented me from doing such a thing here, Tim, because here I am talking to you today, and I've become the renegade popo. I've become a spokesperson like you, trying to talk to people. I don't share these stories because, I want attention. This embarrasses me. But I'm of belief that if we can share our stories and not be ashamed, if anyone's out there listening to my madness, and they're thinking to their stuff, yeah, I've done some crazy ass shit too. I did some bad things. I touched someone. I did this. I did that. You know what? Don't beat yourself up. Try to get better. Try to become a better human being. I am still not where I want to be. I will be honest with you. I am still very much a fucked up individual. I still
Well, you don't work for the pigs no more, so that's a big step in the right direction, I think.
well, thank you. I'm still working very heavily now with the campaign of a super pig election that's getting ready to come up. This is where a friend of mine by the name of Alex Villanueva is running for office. Villanueva was with oh gosh, what's his name? Bob Olmsted. Bob Olmsted was the whistleblower. Okay, this was a super pig commander, 1 star here, Tim, who went to the feds and said these cops are breaking prisoners, arms. He was the only one for the ages this had happened. Now we have this sheriff going to the federal penitentiary. His underling, who had that tattoo, Tanaka, for killing people, is currently in the federal penitentiary system in Colorado. I think it's Florence, the Florence prison system. I mean, they're there because they're fucking bad people. They're
Alex,
there. Uh-huh.
we just got a little bit of time left, but we talked about this before off the air. But real quick, maybe you can just tell, because I don't think I told you I don't think anyone going into a leadership position with the sheriffs or the police could do anything because of the way it's set up, the way the unions are, the way the system is. Like, there's no hope. I don't think anyone can make a change big enough to make a difference. But you said maybe these people can. So what's your thoughts on that, real quick, in like maybe 2 or 3 minutes?
Really quick, we would bring people on board like you, okay, to be talking shit every fucking day, to be listening to you, to be relooking at cases by setting people free, by not enforcing certain bad laws, by indoctrinating the police, the sheriffs into a new, different way of thinking, what we call guardian policing versus the warrior cop. I'm going to kick your fucking ass or kick in your teeth or blow your fucking head off type law enforcement of today. Okay, the guardian policing involves talking to people like I'm talking to you. The guardian policing involves, being able to use the appropriate amount of. There are people that need to be killed. Okay, that's just a fact of life. Someone comes out with a gun, starts shooting children, and starts molesting people, and puts a knife to their throats. I'm sorry. Yeah, sometimes the cops are gonna miss and shoot
Yeah,
innocent.
and sometimes when a white guy shoots up a church with a bunch of black people, the cops go arrest him nicely and buy him Burger King. So I mean, yeah,
Yeah, it's all disproportionate, and so having these conversations here where were illegal before, that were prohibited, that were kept in the dark, that were silenced. People like me would have been gone yesterday. Okay, but there's a whole bunch of us now. Okay, a whole bunch of us now, and I cannot emphasize that all over the planet. If someone's listening to this broadcast, he is part or she is part or whatever sexual orientation or whatever ethnicity, whatever religion, they are waking up to the madness is the reason for this change. And I think that that's how we can make it happen here today, my friend.
cool. Yeah, we should do another show where we talk about this a little deeper because I didn't think we were going to be talking about any of this, but with the tech problems and everything, I figured let's just stick with the police shit. It's easier, and then if it dies out, whatever. But yeah, thanks a million, Alex, for coming on the show. I'm gonna, like I said before, I'm gonna put it together so it makes a little bit more sense, and we don't have all the technical difficulties. And I'll re-release everything. Um,
Okay, sounds good.
so yeah,
And again, for the people that are listening, hang in there. This Trump thing is not going to last, because good people have always stood up for what's right. And even these people that are sick, they're going to come to light. We have to somehow develop some sort of technique to get them to understand that this shit ain't right. And again, I'm not perfect either. I'm not standing as no religious figure, or even, as Tim says, as a leader. Okay, because I will take you guys down the abyss, of my own little twistedness, that doesn't end to go anywhere, because as an investigator, I've just seen the most craziness, and I don't know what the fuck that kind of effect has had on me. But with the police shit, it's just powerful, because it affects everybody. So thank you very much, my friend.
anytime, Alex. You know you're always welcome on here. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Sorry again about the technical difficulties, but in my own defense, I tweeted sorry about the technical difficulties that will probably happen yesterday because I knew this shit was going to happen. So I'm one step ahead of myself. So yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Alex, and thanks everyone for listening. If you're still around, we'll see you next week.
Take care.